The first time my parents strapped me to a chair and drained my blood, I was 7. I remember staring at the ceiling light in our damp Michigan basement, wondering if this was how other kids spent their Saturdays. A black market nurse tied off my arm, my vein so tiny she had to jab me 3 times before she found one that worked. My mom leaned close, her perfume mixing with rubbing alcohol. "You're a miracle, Daniel," she whispered. "God made you to save your brother. That's why you're here." At 7, I didn't know words like porn or sacrifice, but I knew kids weren't supposed to exist just to keep someone else alive. My brother Matthew was born with severe hemophilia. The doctors called it life-threatening, which in our house translated into every day could be his last. His blood clotted like water, every bruise and scrape carrying the weight of death. My parents spent everything, savings, credit cards, even borrowed money from relatives, chasing miracle treatments in Cleveland and Chicago. Nothing worked. So they made me. Not because they wanted another son. Because they wanted a walking blood bank. When I hit 40 pounds, the donations began. Once a month, they brought me down to that basement. I sat in the cracked vinyl recliner, legs dangling, while the machine hummed and my blood flowed into bags marked M. Carter. Afterward, my dad would ruffle my hair and call me our little hero, as if I'd volunteered for this instead of being bred for it. Matthew always got cookies afterward. I got iron pills that made me throw up. The twisted part? Matthew hated it too. After the transfusions, he'd sneak into my room with an extra cookie and whisper stories under the covers. One day when I'm better, he'd promise, "I'll take care of you instead." Neither of us understood then that he'd never get better. And I'd never stop bleeding for him. By the time I turned 11, monthly became every 2 weeks. I was missing school constantly, my arms covered in bruises that never healed before new ones bloomed. Teachers pulled me aside to ask questions. I repeated my mother's script, "I'm just clumsy, I'm just anemic." One Friday, I begged to skip a session because I had a math test. My dad grabbed my shoulders so hard his fingers left purple marks for a week. "Would you rather fail a test," he hissed, "or watch your brother die?" That night, Matthew tried to refuse the transfusion. Told them he'd rather die than keep hurting me. My mother knocked him out with sedatives before he could finish the sentence. The next morning, he apologized through tears. Not because he'd changed his mind, because they'd convinced him refusing was selfish. That letting himself die would mean killing me too, because I'd lose my hero. At 15, my life was measured in pints. Every Monday, I left school early and sat in that basement chair while the nurse drained me. My body couldn't keep up. I fainted during basketball practice, collapsed in English class, missed entire afternoons from dizziness. When the school nurse finally insisted on a real exam, the doctor pulled me aside afterward. His face was grave. "You're dangerously anemic, Daniel. Your body can't keep this up. You need to stop donating so often, once a month at the most, or you risk permanent damage." My parents nodded solemnly in his office. Then they laughed about it in the car. "Once a month," my mom scoffed. "What does he want, Matthew dead?" They didn't slow down. They doubled down. Stronger supplements, vitamin injections, anything to keep me barely strong enough to bleed again. That same year, I earned a basketball scholarship to the University of Indiana. It was the first sliver of light I'd ever seen outside that basement. My way out. When I told my parents, I expected tears, maybe even pride. Instead, my mom's face went white. "The blood bank isn't reliable," she snapped. "You're his only match." My dad didn't bother arguing. He just held up my acceptance letter, ripped it in half, and dropped the pieces into the trash. "You're not going anywhere." And in that moment, it hit me, I wasn't their son. I was their supply. Their resource. Their insurance policy with a pulse. I thought that was the bottom. That no betrayal could cut deeper. But I had no idea. The real betrayal was still coming. The night my dad ripped up my acceptance letter, I thought that was the worst they could do. I was wrong. 3 days before I was supposed to leave for college, I walked into our living room and found my parents, Matthew, and a man in a grey suit waiting for me. A stack of papers sat neatly on the coffee table. My mom's eyes lit up like she was proud of some sick surprise. "This is Mr. Hanley," she said smoothly. "He's helping us make sure Matthew gets the care he needs." Hanley adjusted his glasses, slid the top page toward me, and pointed at a blank line at the bottom. "If you'll just sign here, Daniel." My stomach twisted. "What is this?" "It's nothing scary," my mom chirped. "Just a legal agreement making you responsible for Matthew's medical care. Everyone knows you're his best chance. This just makes it official." I scanned the pages, my hands shaking. The words blurred, but I caught enough: mandatory blood donation, minimum 2 sessions per week, parental oversight, legal guardianship of medical needs. They weren't asking me to help. They were chaining me to him forever. "This is insane," I whispered. "You can't make me." My dad leaned forward, his voice sharp. "If you refuse, you'll be liable for neglect. The state calls it medical abandonment. That means prison, Daniel. Attempted murder of your own brother through negligence." The lawyer nodded like it was just business. "The increased frequency is temporary," he said, his voice oily. "Only until additional donors can be found." But in the fine print, I saw the truth: calculated volumes, supplement schedules, thresholds for functionality. They'd mapped out exactly how much blood they could drain before I collapsed. They weren't planning to find other donors. They'd already decided this was permanent. Matthew wheeled closer, his eyes shining with tears. His hand found mine. "Please, Danny. I need you. Just sign it." I stared at him, at the boy who used to sneak me cookies under a blanket fort, the boy who once promised he'd take care of me someday. Now he was begging me to sign my life away, too weak and too desperate to see that our parents had turned him into my warden. My throat burned. "I can't." Silence. My father's jaw flexed. My mother's smile didn't move, but her eyes hardened. Hanley slid a business card across the table. "We'll file the papers in 3 days either way. With or without your signature." Matthew's grip on my hand tightened. "Don't choose basketball over me. Don't choose yourself over me." I couldn't even answer. I just let him believe my silence meant agreement. Another betrayal. That night, I packed a duffel bag in secret. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers, the torn scraps of my acceptance letter I'd taped back together. I'd hidden $500 in cash from tutoring math after school. Enough for a bus ticket. Enough to get me to Indiana if I moved fast. But my mom was always 2 steps ahead. She walked into my room without knocking, carrying a tray of pills and water. She stood there while I swallowed each one, checking under my tongue like I was a psych patient. Then her eyes landed on the half-packed duffel bag on my bed. She didn't say a word. Just zipped it shut, lifted it easily, and put it on the top shelf of my closet where I couldn't reach without falling. Her smile never faltered. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll take care of everything." That night, my dad locked my bedroom door from the outside. I tested the window, but years of layered paint had sealed it shut. My pulse pounded as I realized the truth: they'd thought of everything. Every lock. Every pill. Every excuse. The next morning, they called the school to excuse my absence, claiming I had a medical procedure. Not a lie, technically. At 2 p.m., my dad jingled the car keys in my doorway. "Basement," he said flatly. I moved like a zombie down the stairs, my legs heavy, the air thick with rubbing alcohol. The cracked vinyl chair waited for me, straps already open, the machine humming like it was hungry. 3 empty bags hung ready, the labels pre-printed, M. Carter. The nurse didn't even look at me anymore. Just found a vein, taped the needle in place, and set the machine running. My mom sat beside me with her knitting. My dad flipped through a car magazine. And at the top of the stairs, Matthew watched from his wheelchair, his thin hand trembling as he reached for mine. I let him hold it, even as my blood flowed out of me, drop by drop. Because I knew the truth now, if I didn't escape in 72 hours, they wouldn't just own my future. They'd own my life. And this time, they wouldn't even need my signature. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my veins aching, every muscle buzzing with weakness. Through the thin walls, I heard my parents talking in low voices about filing deadlines and adjustments to the schedule. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I wasn't a son. I was livestock. I kept thinking about a memory I hadn't touched in years. I was 9, and Matthew had just had another bleed. While Mom prepped the machine in the basement, he'd crawled into my room, pale and shaking. He pressed a crumpled drawing into my hand, a stick figure version of me with a cape, standing tall while he lay smiling in bed. "When I get better, I'll take care of you for once," he whispered. Back then, I believed him. Back then, I thought we both had a chance. Now, 2 days from college orientation, he was the one begging me to sign away my life. My phone buzzed under my pillow. A text from my best friend, Alex. "Ready for campus? Got your dorm assignment yet?" My thumb hovered over the screen. I typed, "I'm not sure I'm gonna make it," then deleted it. No one could know. If my parents even suspected I'd reached out, they'd cut off every connection I had. I slid out of bed quietly, every step calculated, my body trembling from blood loss. I dragged a chair to the closet, climbed shakily, and pulled down the duffel bag Mom had hidden. My heart nearly stopped when I felt it, the envelope of cash was still there. My lifeline. But the floor creaked, and before I could shove the bag under my bed, footsteps echoed in the hall. The lock clicked. My mom stepped inside, carrying a tray of supplements. Her eyes flicked to the bag, then back to me. She didn't yell. Didn't accuse. She just smiled, set the tray down, and pushed the chair back into the corner. A quiet warning. The door locked again when she left. I couldn't breathe. They weren't just controlling me. They were tightening the leash. That night, after both of them went to bed, I pulled open my desk drawer. Buried under old homework and pens was a stupid gift Alex had given me last Christmas, a lock-picking set. He'd thought it was funny, a joke for a kid with escape artist vibes. My hand shook as I fitted the first pick into the lock. Every tiny click sounded like thunder in the silence. My pulse roared in my ears. After 20 minutes of fumbling, the knob finally turned. The hallway stretched before me, dark and still. My father's snores rumbled at the far end. I crept down the stairs, duffel bag slung across my shoulder, skipping the third step because it always creaked. The front door gleamed with its new deadbolts. I searched the key hooks. Empty. The back door? Same. Every exit sealed. Then my eyes landed on the basement door. I froze. That place had always been my prison, the site of every drained ounce of life. But it was also the one place my parents never thought I'd return voluntarily. My hands trembled as I eased it open. The air was thick with alcohol wipes and iron. The chair sat in its usual place, straps open like arms waiting to hold me. The machine loomed in the dark, quiet now but always hungry. And in the far corner, small, grimy, almost forgotten, was one of the old basement windows. Tiny. Rusted. Barely wider than my shoulders. But possible. I dragged a cardboard box beneath it, climbed up, and scraped at the latch with a screwdriver I'd swiped from Dad's toolbox. My fingers bled as the rust gave way with a horrible screech. I froze, listening. No footsteps. Just the steady rumble of Dad's snore upstairs. I shoved my bag through the narrow opening, then pressed my body against the frame. Wood tore at my shirt, metal scraped my ribs. For one terrifying moment, I was stuck halfway through, torso outside, legs dangling in the basement. Panic clawed at my throat. If they found me like this, I was finished. I twisted hard, ignoring the pain, and with one last desperate shove, I tumbled onto the grass outside. The night air hit me like a slap. Cool. Alive. I was free. I grabbed my bag and staggered into the trees behind our house, my legs wobbling but moving anyway. Each step felt like a war against gravity. Every branch that snapped underfoot made me flinch, certain my father's hand would clamp down on my shoulder at any second. But no one followed. Not yet. I didn't stop until I reached the empty lot behind the old gas station. There was a payphone by the dumpsters, the kind nobody used anymore. My hand shook as I fed in quarters and dialed the only number I trusted. Hello? Alex's voice was groggy with sleep. It's me, I whispered, my voice cracking. I need help. Please. Now. Silence. Then his voice sharpened, full of something I hadn't felt in years, certainty. 20 minutes, he said. Stay hidden. I'm coming. I leaned against the cold brick wall, knees buckling, vision swimming. I had 72 hours to make it to orientation. And this was only the beginning. Alex's headlights appeared 20 minutes later, cutting across the abandoned lot like salvation. His old Honda screeched to a stop by the dumpsters, and the second he saw me, he swore under his breath. Jesus, Danny, what did they do to you? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat locked up the moment I saw his face. I just climbed into the passenger seat, duffel bag clutched tight, and let him drive. His apartment was nothing fancy, just a cramped one-bedroom above a laundromat in Grand Rapids, but it felt like a palace compared to my parents' basement. He made me sit at his kitchen table while he heated up soup, pressing a glass of water into my shaking hands. When I finally told him everything, the transfusions, the papers, the threats, his jaw tightened until I thought his teeth would crack. They can't do this. It's illegal, he muttered. They already have a lawyer, I whispered. They're filing in 2 days. Alex slammed his fist against the counter. Then we've got 2 days to disappear. But my parents weren't wasting time. By morning, my phone was buzzing non-stop. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails from Mom's syrupy voice. Danny, please, come home. You don't understand what you're doing to your brother. You're sick, honey. Confused. The last message was my dad's growl, you've made a huge mistake. Don't think you can hide. Then came the texts from Matthew. Please, Danny. I'm dying without you. Followed by a photo of him in a hospital bed, pale and hooked to machines. Guilt hit me like a freight train. But when I showed Alex, he shook his head. They're manipulating you. Don't take the bait. He was right. Because an hour later, a news alert popped up on his phone, missing teen with medical condition. My stomach dropped. There was my photo, my school ID picture, plastered across the screen. The article claimed I was unstable, that I'd run away from home while in need of life-saving medical treatment. It said my brother's condition depended on me, and if I wasn't found, he could die. They'd turned me from victim to villain. From blood donor to criminal. Alex cursed under his breath. They filed a missing person report on you. They're making it sound like you're sick. I told you, I whispered. They've planned everything. We had to move. Staying in Grand Rapids was too dangerous. Alex called his cousin Jenna, who lived in Toledo. She agreed to take me in for a night, no questions asked. We drove back roads the entire way, Alex checking the mirrors every few minutes like we were in some spy movie. I tried to sleep, but every time my eyes closed, I saw the basement chair, the bags filling with my blood, the lawyer's smirk as he slid the papers across the table. Jenna's place was a small townhouse cluttered with plants and textbooks. She didn't ask questions, just made me shower, fed me pasta, and gave me her bed. For the first time in years, I slept without a lock clicking from the outside. But peace didn't last. The next morning, Jenna handed me her phone. There's something you should see. On Facebook, my parents had posted a long status, painting themselves as heroes. Our son Daniel is gravely ill. He's been brainwashed by outsiders who don't understand his role in saving his brother's life. If anyone sees him, please call the police immediately. He is in danger to himself. Hundreds of comments flooded beneath it. Family, friends, relatives from across the country, strangers even, sharing my photo, calling me selfish, broken, delusional. They weren't just trying to find me. They were rewriting me. That night, Alex spread a map across Jenna's coffee table. Your scholarship orientation is in Bloomington, right? That's 2 states down. Bus tickets are traceable. We'll need cash. And we can't stay in one place too long. I stared at the map, my vision blurring with exhaustion. 72 hours. That's all I had before orientation. But then a thought hit me that made my stomach flip. If they could convince the police I was sick, if they could twist the story enough, what was to stop them from dragging me back home even if I made it to campus? Because running wasn't enough anymore. I'd have to fight. And the thought of it terrified me more than the needle in my arm ever had. We made it as far as Indianapolis before everything collapsed. The plan was simple: one last bus south, then a cab to Bloomington. From there, orientation. A fresh start. My body was already failing, each step felt like walking through water, but I was close. So damn close. But when the bus pulled into the terminal, 2 police officers were waiting. My photo was in their hands. Daniel Carter, one asked. My heart stopped. Alex whispered, play dumb, but it was useless. They knew. I forced my voice steady. Why? What's going on? One officer frowned. Your parents filed a medical emergency report. Said you're unstable, refusing life-saving treatment. You need to come with us. No, I blurted, louder than I meant. Heads turned. My chest tightened. I'm not sick. They're lying. The officers exchanged a look. One reached for his radio. That's when I made the most reckless decision of my life. I yanked the crumpled folder from my bag, the one with my medical records I'd been hoarding for years. Test results showing anemia. Notes from doctors warning against excessive blood loss. All proof my parents had ignored. Look! I shouted, thrusting the papers at them. I'm not the one dying. They've been draining my blood for years to keep my brother alive. I'm not sick, I'm being abused. The terminal went silent. Dozens of strangers stared. The officers froze. Alex grabbed my shoulder, steadying me as I swayed. My voice cracked, raw and desperate, if you send me back, you'll kill me. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker across the officer's face. He lowered his radio. We'll take you to the hospital first, he said quietly. At the hospital, everything unraveled. Blood work confirmed what I'd said, dangerously low counts, organ stress, years of damage from overdonation. The staff filed mandatory reports. CPS. Law enforcement. The whole machine my parents thought they controlled now turned against them. By the next morning, investigators were in our basement seizing the transfusion equipment. My parents were arrested on charges of child endangerment and medical neglect. I wish I could say I felt triumphant. That I celebrated. But all I felt was hollow. Because through it all, Matthew still called me. Crying. Begging. They say you abandoned me. They say you don't love me anymore. The guilt was a second kind of prison. Weeks later, he finally learned the truth, after investigators showed him the records, the forged doctor's notes, even the black market nurse's testimony. His voice broke when he called me. Danny. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I believed him. But forgiveness wasn't simple. Orientation came and went. I limped across campus on shaky legs, marveling at the freedom of choosing my own classes, my own path. But every step carried scars, on my arms, on my blood, in my memory. My parents were sentenced to 5 years each. The nurse got 2. The fake lawyer barely 18 months. Justice, I guess. But prison bars don't erase basement scars. Sometimes, when the gym lights flicker during late practice, I catch the reflection of a boy in a vinyl chair, tubes running from his arms. I blink, and he's gone. But I remind myself, I'm not livestock anymore. I'm not a resource. I'm not theirs. For the first time in my life, my blood belongs to me. And yet, when I close my eyes, I still hear my brother's voice whispering in the dark. When I get better, I'll take care of you for once. I don't know if that day will ever come. But for the first time, I'm willing to wait and see.